In the neon-lit streets of New Eden, Julian Styles navigates his destiny. A notification from Isaac Miller, a reclusive genius, sets him on a path to reshape reality. Emma Reed's name leaves Julian breathless. Their shared past holds the key to her perfect life. In an abandoned water tower, secrets and lies converge as Emma confronts the truth about her memories. As they delve into their shared past, shadows lurk in the darkness, threatening to tear them apart. With every memory uncovered, Julian realizes their perfect life was a fabrication, but what's real and what's not? A mysterious figure watches from the shadows, intent on stopping their quest for authenticity. Like and subscribe for more stories like this one. The neon-lit streets of New Eden stretched out before Julian Styles like a canvas painted in electric hues, each building facade advertising the latest designer memory implants or cybernetic enhancements. His sleek hovercar glided smoothly through the traffic, its tinted windows reflecting the vibrant cityscape as he navigated toward his destination. A notification chimed from his wrist-mounted comms device, and Julian's eyes flicked to the holographic display. A message from Isaac Miller, the reclusive genius behind the memory marketplace. The two had worked together on several high-profile cases before, but this latest commission intrigued Julian more than most. No further explanation was given, only an implied promise that whatever awaited him would be worth the trouble. Julian had long since learned to trust Isaac's judgment, so he accepted without hesitation and set off toward the designated meeting point. Minutes later, Julian pulled into the loading bay of an upscale warehouse on the outskirts of downtown. The massive steel doors slid open as he exited his vehicle, revealing a dimly lit cavern filled with rows of gleaming storage containers. In the center of the room, Isaac stood leaning against a metal pillar, clad in his signature all-black attire. "Julian," Isaac greeted him without preamble, "I have a unique proposition for you." Julian's curiosity was piqued. He had worked on many memory reconstruction projects before, but never one with such secrecy surrounding it. "What is it?" he asked, eyeing the other man warily. Isaac held out a small, intricately carved box. "I want you to create a life memory package, perfect, flawless, and entirely fabricated." He paused, his expression unreadable in the dim light. "For Emma Reed." The name sent a jolt through Julian's system. Emma had been his lover, his partner in crime during their wild years on the edge of society before they both opted for more stable lives. The idea of reconstructing her past, especially after all that time and tumult, seemed almost sacrilegious. "Why?" he asked hesitantly, but Isaac remained silent, waiting patiently for his response. "All right," he agreed finally, "but I want to know why." Isaac's lips curled into a faint smile. "That is not my concern. Your task is to create perfection, and your success will be rewarded accordingly." With that enigmatic statement, he handed Julian the box containing Emma's parameters, then turned on his heel and disappeared into the shadows of the warehouse. Julian stared after him, the mysterious request swirling in his mind like a puzzle with missing pieces. As he walked toward the exit, his thoughts drifted back to Emma, wondering what she had done to merit such a special project, and whether he could truly deliver perfection when faced with her complicated past. Julian stepped out of the warehouse, Emma's box clutched tightly in his hand as he hailed a hovercab to take him home. His mind churned with questions, his curiosity piqued by Isaac's cryptic words and the tantalizing prospect of recreating Emma's ideal life. He found himself almost excited at the challenge, intrigued by the possibilities of shaping her past into something luminous and flawless. As he settled back in his private apartment, Julian began reviewing Emma's parameters, scrutinizing every detail he'd been given. Her childhood had been marked by poverty and hardship, a lonely existence punctuated only by occasional visits from an absentee father, or so the curated memories claimed. It was no wonder she'd turned to hacking as a means of escape, to create a world where she held power instead of being powerless. Julian's fingers danced across his console as he initiated the memory reconstruction process. selecting fragments from Emma's supposed past and weaving them together into an idealized tapestry. He chose moments when she had achieved success, instances of personal triumph, relationships built on trust and affection, all designed to create a sense of fulfillment and happiness. Yet even as he constructed this fabricated paradise, Julian couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't quite right. Minor inconsistencies, glitches in her narrative that he couldn't explain. It was almost as if Emma's real past had left behind lingering echoes, ghosts of memories that refused to be erased entirely. Julian dismissed his concerns and focused on fine-tuning every detail, determined to deliver a flawless memory package to Isaac, and by extension, to the enigmatic woman whose life he was redefining. But as the process neared completion, a chilling thought crept into his mind. What if Emma herself wasn't meant to be happy? What if her perfect memories were designed to serve someone else's purpose? Dark console with a growing sense of trepidation. He knew then that he was in over his head, and that whatever secrets lay buried in Emma's past would soon be unearthed by both their determination to uncover the truth. Julian stood at the edge of the abandoned water tower, his eyes scanning the desolate surroundings for any sign of Emma. The wind carried an unsettling chill through the crumbling structure's metal latticework, as if it held secrets Julian wasn't privy to. He shivered and crossed his arms, trying to ward off the unease that had settled in his gut since her cryptic message. The darkness was absolute, punctuated only by the faint glow of distant city lights filtering through the rusted supports. Julian's augmented reality overlay flickered to life, casting an eerie blue hue over the scene as he accessed various data streams. No sign of Emma yet, just a void where she should be. Suddenly, the air seemed to vibrate with static, and Emma materialized in front of him, not by his console this time, but here, at the water tower, her presence almost tangible. Julian blinked hard, reassured by the solidity of her form even as he questioned the technology behind it. "You're early," he said, attempting a casual tone despite his racing heart. "What's your game?" Emma didn't smile. Her expression remained stern and intent. "We don't have much time, Julian." She pulled up a datapad from some hidden pocket in her jacket and handed it to him. "Take a look at this." The device displayed a series of codes and schematics that made little sense to Julian. "What is all this?" he asked, frustration creeping into his voice. "It appears you've been using your own memory reconstruction tools on me without my consent." Julian's eyes widened in shock. He'd never imagined she would discover such a violation of trust. "I have reason to believe it's related to the project you're working on for Isaac Miller. The perfect life memory package, what is its true purpose?" Julian hesitated, caught in the headlights of Emma's accusation. "Emma, let me explain." "No explanations," she interrupted sharply, her voice laced with anger. "I want answers now." The confrontation hung heavy in the air, suspended between them like a charged particle waiting to ignite. Julian knew he had to tread carefully. Emma's hacking prowess was formidable, and he didn't want to underestimate her determination for revenge or justice. "What's this got to do with our past?" he asked cautiously, trying to steer the conversation towards safer ground. "Why are you really here?" Emma's gaze softened ever so slightly, a flicker of something raw and painful crossing her features. "You remember that summer in Barcelona, when we first fell for each other before all the lies and manipulation?" Julian nodded slowly, his mind conjuring up fragments of their time together. A warm breeze rustling through palm trees, the taste of sangria on a balmy evening, the way she used to laugh. "We were happy then," Emma said wistfully, "before reality got in the way." As if drawn by some unseen force, Julian reached out and took her hand, cool and firm against his own. The contact sparked an electric current through him, transporting him back to that carefree summer of youth and love. "Emma." His voice was barely a whisper, but it held all the unspoken longing he'd harbored for years. "What secrets are you hiding? What truth do you think I don't know?" Her eyes searched his face before she spoke again, her words carrying an undercurrent of desperation. "I want to find out who we really were, and why our love was stolen from us." Julian's grip tightened around her hand, He felt the weight of his own complicity settling upon him like lead in his gut. "We'll uncover it together," he promised, a fierce determination rising within him. "No matter what secrets lie buried or how far we need to dig, I'm with you, Emma." In that moment, their fates were irrevocably entwined, driven by a shared desire for truth and the certainty of facing whatever darkness lay ahead. Julian knew that he had crossed an invisible line, one from which there was no turning back. But as he looked into Emma's eyes, he found himself ready to face whatever revelations awaited them, knowing that their quest for authenticity might just cost him everything. Julian's declaration hung heavy in the air, echoing off the water tower's metal walls. Emma's eyes never left his face, drinking in every word as if it were a lifeline to her long-lost past. He could sense the turmoil beneath her calm exterior, the same restless longing that churned within him. "We'll need to be careful," Julian cautioned, knowing their pursuit of truth would lead them down dangerous paths. "Isaac is not someone to be trifled with." Emma's fingers tightened around his, a gesture both reassuring and unnerving. "I'm willing to take the risk if it means rediscovering who we truly were." Her voice held an undercurrent of urgency that sent a shiver down his spine. As they descended from the water tower, Emma pulled out a small device from her pocket, a sleek, unassuming tool with far more capability than its size suggested. "I'll use this to tap into your memory storage," she explained, her eyes never leaving Julian's face. "If there are any gaps or anomalies in our shared past, we should be able to detect them." Julian nodded, his mind racing ahead as he considered the implications of Emma's plan. The thought of someone probing so intimately into his memories was unsettling, yet the prospect of uncovering buried secrets held an undeniable allure. With a deep breath, Julian extended his arm for Emma to attach the device. As it clicked securely in place, he couldn't help but think about how easily their roles had reversed, from erstwhile lovers to adversaries driven by a shared quest for authenticity. "Ready?" Emma asked, her eyes aglow with anticipation. Julian's response was measured, "As ready as I'll ever be." Together, they stepped into the unknown, two souls bound by an insatiable desire for truth, each prepared to face whatever revelations awaited them in the depths of their shared past. As Emma initiated the memory scan, Julian felt a strange sensation coursing through him, like the gentle hum of machinery awakening from long slumber. The first images flickered into view, snapshots from a life he thought he knew so well. But as the memories unfolded, Julian found himself questioning every detail, his own perception clouded by the haze of time and Isaac's meticulous manipulation. "Something's not right," he murmured, eyes scanning through increasingly distorted recollections. Emma's grip on his hand tightened in response, a silent acknowledgement of her own growing unease. "We need to dig deeper," she said, her voice laced with determination. "Keep pushing. We're close to something." With renewed resolve, Julian dove back into the maelstrom of memories, each new revelation bringing them closer to the truth they sought. But in their haste, he failed to notice a faint flicker on his periphery, a shadowy figure watching from the darkness, waiting for him and Emma to uncover the secrets they were so desperate to find. As Julian's mind delved deeper into the labyrinth of memories, he sensed an eerie familiarity about the shadows lurking at the edge of his perception. It was as if he'd seen this specter before, but in a life he no longer remembered. The hair on the back of his neck stood on end, and Emma's hand in his became ice-cold. "We're not alone," Julian whispered, the words barely audible over the sound of their own breathing. "Someone's been following us." Emma's gaze darted around the deserted street, but there was no one in sight, only the silent testimony of abandoned buildings bearing witness to their pursuit of truth. "We need to get back to base," she urged, her voice low and urgent. "Secure our findings and figure out what this means." As they turned to leave, a chill ran down Julian's spine. He could have sworn he saw that shadowy figure again, watching them from the mouth of an alleyway. This time its presence was unmistakable. "Let's move," he said, his tone firm with resolve. "We'll confront whoever this is when we're prepared." Side by side, they stepped into the night, Two souls bound together in a quest for authenticity, now confronted with a new and ominous reality. Someone else knew their secret and was determined to stop them from uncovering it. With every step, Julian felt the weight of his past growing heavier. The memories he had once thought was secure now seemed precariously balanced on the precipice of truth. He could no longer deny the mounting evidence that Emma's idealized version of their life was nothing more than a fabrication, one crafted to sell, manipulate, and control. As they neared the safety of Julian's apartment, his thoughts turned to Liz, to the woman he had helped shape into something she was not. The thought filled him with remorse and dread. He wondered if there was still time to free her from the prison of memories Isaac had constructed for her benefit. But as they entered their sanctuary, Julian knew that the battle ahead would be far more treacherous than anything they had faced so far. Their quest for authenticity had only just begun, a journey fraught with danger, betrayal, and self-discovery. And now, with a shadowy figure lurking in the darkness, Julian and Emma must confront not only their own pasts, but also the sinister forces that sought to keep them buried forever. As they stepped inside, Julian locked the door behind Emma, their eyes locking in a moment of unspoken understanding. The apartment felt like an island, cut off from the world outside, yet they both knew it was only a temporary refuge. They were on borrowed time now. Emma moved to the living room, her gaze drifting over the meticulously curated space that had once served as a testament to their love and success. It seemed so hollow now, a shell devoid of meaning or warmth. She ran her fingers along the edge of Julian's favorite chair, feeling the cold steel beneath the fabric. Was it all just a lie? Emma asked quietly, turning to face him. Our life together, every moment we shared. Did Isaac create that too? But first, I have something to show you. From her pocket, Emma produced a small memory stick, its surface etched with cryptic symbols that seemed to glow ominously in the dim light. She handed it over to Julian without explaining, and he inserted it into his personal AI assistant. The interface flickered to life, revealing a trove of encrypted files labeled Project Eve. As they navigated through the labyrinthine directories, Julian felt a creeping sense of dread. What secrets lay hidden within these digital archives, and how did Emma come to possess them? But he couldn't, not without resorting to lies or rationalizations that would only further erode their already fragile trust. I'm sorry, was all he could manage, his eyes pleading for mercy and understanding from a woman who had every right to despise him. Emma's expression softened marginally at the apology, but her resolve remained unyielding. I need some time, she said curtly before turning on her heel and storming out of the apartment, leaving Julian alone with the weight of his sins and the knowledge that he might have irreparably damaged the one relationship he'd once cherished above all others. Over the next few days, Emma disappeared into the shadows, using her skills to delve deeper into the labyrinthine underworld of the memory marketplace. She scoured through databanks and hacked into secure systems, searching for any clue that could lead them closer to uncovering Isaac's sinister plot. Meanwhile, Julian found himself increasingly consumed by his own guilt and uncertainty. He tried to reach out to Liz, to offer her some measure of comfort and support in the face of their shared ordeal, but she remained distant, her eyes haunted by secrets only she knew. As the hours ticked by with agonizing slowness, Julian began to realize that he needed Emma, not just as a partner in this twisted game of cat and mouse, but also as a key to unlocking the truth about his own past. Without her, they were both adrift, lost in a sea of manipulated memories and half-truths. And so, with a heavy heart and a determination forged in the crucible of despair, he would confront her about their shared history, and together they would face whatever darkness lay ahead, even if it meant risking everything they thought they knew about themselves. With newfound resolve etched on his features, Julian stepped out into the city's unforgiving night, ready to embark on a journey that promised both salvation and destruction. And though he couldn't know what awaited him around every corner or behind each shadowy figure, one thing was certain. Only through the uncharted territories of their own memories could they hope to reclaim their lives from the clutches of deception. As he walked, the neon lights of the city's towering skyscrapers cast an eerie glow on his face, illuminating the determination etched in every line. For Julian Styles, there was no turning back, not when the path ahead promised a confrontation with his own darkest fears and the woman who had once held his heart in her hands. The question now was whether Emma Reed would still be there to meet him, or if their shared past had already become nothing more than a distant memory fading into oblivion. Julian's feet pounded the wet pavement as he raced towards Emma's last known location, her apartment several blocks away. The rain-soaked streets seemed to blur together in a disparate blur of neon lights and shadowy alleys, but he pushed on, fueled by an all-consuming need to find her. As he burst through her front door without knocking, the dimly lit space was eerily quiet. Julian's heart pounded against his chest as he called out for Emma, his voice hoarse from shouting over the rain outside. "Emma, are you here?" He moved cautiously through the apartment, flipping on lights and checking every room, but found no sign of her. Suddenly, a faint sound reached his ears, the soft hum of machinery whirring to life. It was coming from Emma's workstation in the back bedroom she used as her private hacking lair. Julian hurried towards it, a mix of anticipation and trepidation building within him. Inside the room, he found Emma hunched over a sleek, high-tech console, her fingers flying across the keyboard with an intensity that bordered on obsession. She looked up at his sudden intrusion, her eyes narrowing as she took in his disheveled appearance. "Julian," she said coolly, not bothering to hide her irritation, "I wasn't expecting company. I didn't mean to startle you." Julian approached cautiously, aware of the delicate balance between curiosity and hostility in the air. "But I need your help. We have to figure out what's going on with Liz and our memories." Emma raised an eyebrow, a hint of a smile playing at her lips. "Ah, yes, the perfect life package you created for my dear sister-in-law. How quaint." Her tone dripped with sarcasm as she continued typing, her fingers dancing over keys with a speed and agility that would put a concert pianist to shame. "Emma, please," Julian pleaded, moving closer to the console. "Liz is unraveling before our eyes. We have to do something." "Unraveling?" Emma scoffed. "Poor Liz. She's been perfectly content in her little bubble of bliss until you came along and started poking holes in it." She paused, studying him with an unnerving intensity. "But I suppose you're right. She does seem a bit off lately." For a moment, Julian detected the flicker of concern beneath Emma's detached demeanor. He seized the opportunity to press his point further. "That's exactly why we need to look into our own memories. Isaac has been hiding something from us, and I think he's behind Liz's growing instability." Emma snorted, rolling her eyes with a dismissive wave of her hand. "Oh, please, Julian. You're not still buying into that conspiracy theory nonsense, are you? Isaac may be an enigmatic figure, but he's also one hell of a businessman. The memory marketplace is his golden goose. Why would he jeopardize it by playing fast and loose with people's lives?" "Because he can," Julian countered firmly. "He has the resources and the technology to manipulate memories on a grand scale. And I think that's exactly what happened to us, Emma. Our memories were altered, maybe even erased." Emma's expression turned thoughtful for a moment before she shrugged dismissively once more. "Even if we assume all this is true, how do you propose we go about unraveling the mystery of our own memories?" Julian hesitated, realizing that he hadn't given much thought to the logistics of their situation, but desperation fueled his determination. "We'll start by digging into our pasts together." He extended a hand towards her, hoping she would take it. Emma regarded him skeptically for another moment before finally placing her own hand in his. As they shook, Julian could feel a spark of something old and familiar ignite between them, a remnant of the passion and trust that had once bound their lives together so tightly. "I'll help you," Emma agreed reluctantly, "but only because I'm curious to see what secrets we might uncover, and maybe—" Her voice trailed off as she glanced towards the door, leading out into the city's chaotic night. "Maybe it will lead us back to each other." The unspoken implication hung in the air between them like a promise or a threat. Julian wasn't sure which, All he knew was that with Emma by his side, they might just stand a chance against whatever darkness lurked within their memories and out on the streets of this unforgiving city. With renewed resolve, Julian tightened his grip on her hand and led her towards the door. Together, they stepped out into the rain-soaked night, ready to confront the secrets that had haunted them for so long, even if it meant risking everything they thought they knew about themselves. The rain-soaked streets of Neo-Seattle reflected their mood, dark, turbulent, and unforgiving. Emma's eyes scanned the crowded sidewalks with a mixture of wariness and anticipation as she followed Julian towards his high-rise apartment building. "You sure you want to go back there?" she asked, her voice tinged with doubt. "You don't owe him anything anymore." Julian hesitated for a moment before nodding decisively. "I need answers, Emma, and I know Liz will have them." He glanced at her, his expression resolute. "Besides, Isaac's no longer in the picture. Our focus is on freeing Liz from this living hell he created." Emma nodded slowly, accepting his logic despite the unease it stirred within her. As they entered Julian's apartment, the sterile white walls seemed to close in around them like a cold, impersonal shroud. "This isn't what I envisioned when we started this," Emma admitted quietly, her gaze drifting over the immaculate space, so different from their own chaotic histories. Julian moved to stand beside her, his hand brushing against hers reassuringly. "Neither of us could have predicted how far Isaac's manipulation would go." His words hung in the air as they approached Liz, who sat hunched on the sofa, her eyes vacant and her body trembling like a leaf in an autumn gust. "Liz," Julian's voice was soft but urgent. "There are things in my head, memories that aren't mine." Emma's grip tightened around Julian's arm, a silent echo of his own growing concern. "What kind of memories?" he asked gently, kneeling beside Liz and taking one of her hands in his. Her skin was cold to the touch. "Pain," she whispered. "Fear, blood." A shudder ran through her slender frame as if reliving whatever horrors lurked within those fragmented recollections. "It's like I'm being pulled back to a life I never lived." Emma knelt on the other side of Liz, her eyes locked on Julian's in understanding and empathy. Together, they formed a fragile circle of support around their shattered wife. "We're going to help you remember," Emma promised softly. "The real you, not the person Isaac tried to turn you into." She glanced at Julian. "We can do this." With renewed determination, the trio set out on a quest for truth. Over the next few days, they delved deep into Liz's memories, working tirelessly to uncover the hidden fragments of her authentic past. The journey was grueling and often terrifying as they confronted horrors that had been buried or fabricated by Isaac's sinister manipulation. But with each revelation, they inched closer to freeing Liz from her prison of lies. As Emma worked her hacking magic, Julian provided emotional support, helping Liz piece together the shattered remnants of her true identity. It was a delicate dance between them, three individuals connected by love, betrayal, and a shared desire for redemption. One fateful night, as they sat huddled around their makeshift workstation in the abandoned warehouse where Emma had initially traced the memory fragments. "What is it?" Liz asked, her voice husky with fatigue and fear. It's all here," Julian whispered, his fingers hovering over the keyboard. "The memories Isaac erased, your true life, our lives." He glanced at Emma, then back at Liz. "We found them." A wave of hope surged through him as he realized they stood on the precipice of a monumental breakthrough. With one final keystroke, Julian unlocked the door to their shared past, ready to confront whatever secrets lay waiting for them beyond that threshold. The next moments would decide not only their fates, but also the future of Neo-Seattle's memory marketplace, and perhaps the very essence of what it means to be human. As they prepared to enter the labyrinthine network of fabricated recollections, Julian could sense an ominous presence lurking just out of sight, watching them with cold, calculating eyes. Isaac was waiting for them, and he wouldn't give up his twisted empire without a fight. Julian's fingers flew over the keyboard, unlocking doors to buried memories. Liz leaned in close, her breath a warm caress on Julian's cheek, his ear as she watched the stream of data pour across the screen. Emma stood at Julian's side, her presence both comforting and unnerving, a reminder of their shared past intertwined with this clandestine mission. "We are getting closer," Julian whispered, his eyes scanning lines of code that made little sense to him but seemed to hold the key to unlocking the truth. "Almost there." Suddenly, the lights flickered, plunging them into darkness. The sudden blackout sent a chill down Julian's spine. He grabbed Liz's hand, squeezing it in reassurance as he called out to Emma. "Emma, are you okay?" His voice echoed through the empty warehouse, but there was no reply. Liz's grip on his hand tightened. "What's happening?" "I don't know," Julian admitted, trying to keep his voice calm, "but I think we've been found." In the darkness, a faint glow emanated from Emma's device as she activated her own hacking tools. She'd anticipated this moment and had already begun laying the groundwork for their escape route. "We need to move," she said, her voice barely audible over the static of the warehouse's old intercom system. Now, with Liz's guidance, Julian felt his way through the dark maze of crates and machinery toward Emma's position. As they approached, he could see her hunched figure illuminated by the soft glow of her screen. "We're clear," she said, already packing up her equipment. "Let's go." As they made their way to a pre-arranged exit point, Julian couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. The warehouse seemed to swallow them whole, its shadows reaching out like tendrils of menace. They finally emerged into the cool night air, gasping as if freed from an underwater prison. Looking back at the abandoned building, Julian could have sworn he saw a figure peering through the grimy windows. Isaac, or perhaps just his imagination playing tricks on him. "Which way now?" Liz asked, her eyes wide with fear and wonder. Emma consulted her device, then pointed down the deserted alleyway. "This leads to our contact. We'll get the memory fragments uploaded there." As they walked, Emma reached out to Julian's hand, a silent understanding passing between them. This was it, their chance at redemption, their opportunity to reshape the future of Neo-Seattle. But with Isaac lurking in the shadows, ready to strike back against this audacious rebellion, Julian knew that the road ahead would be fraught with danger and uncertainty. Still, he squared his shoulders, drawing strength from Liz's presence at his side and Emma's steadfast determination beside him. Together, they would face whatever lay ahead, for their memories, for their lives, and for the truth. They had come too far to turn back now. As they entered the nondescript building, Julian felt an inexplicable sense of trepidation wash over him. He had always prided himself on his ability to navigate even the most complex memory networks with ease, but this mission was different. It involved more than just curating memories. It entailed a fight for truth and freedom. Emma's fingers brushed against his arm as she led the way through the dimly lit corridors, her eyes scanning every corner for any sign of danger. Liz walked beside him, her steps hesitant, as if unsure whether to trust this new path or cling to the familiarity of their constructed past. Julian placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder, wishing he could impart some measure of his own conviction. They reached an unmarked door with no apparent locks, only Emma's device, which she held up like a talisman, and the faith that their contact would recognize them. She entered a sequence of digits, and the door slid open. Beyond it lay a cavernous room filled with rows upon rows of humming servers, their contents an intricate web of memories waiting to be unearthed. "Here we go," Emma whispered, her gaze fixed on a particular cluster of machines. "These are where our fragments will live temporarily until we can find someone willing to help us upload them back into Liz's mind." Julian and Liz exchanged worried glances. The prospect of facing their erased memories was daunting enough without the added risk of this clandestine operation. Emma plugged in a cable, initiating a transfer of data from her device to one of the servers. As they waited for the process to complete, Julian couldn't help but ponder the irony. His success as a memory curator had always been built upon the manipulation of recollections. Yet here he was, on the brink of undoing some of that work in order to restore authenticity. The server beeped its confirmation, and Emma turned to them with a determined smile. "That's it. Our fragments are now secured. We just need to find someone who can help us upload them." Julian scanned the room, taking note of the various interfaces that dotted the space. If they could locate a skilled technician or hacker willing to assist them, their chances of success might be higher. As they ventured deeper into the server farm, the air grew thick with the hum of machinery and the weight of their mission. Suddenly, Emma's device lit up with an incoming message, one that made her pause, her eyes narrowing in concern. She quickly typed a response, then turned to Julian with a mixture of apprehension and resolve etched on her face. "We have our contact," she announced quietly, "but we need to move fast. There's a problem at the other end." Liz's hand reached out for Julian's instinctively, seeking reassurance in this unfamiliar environment, rife with uncertainty. As he intertwined his fingers with hers, a surge of determination coursed through him. They had come too far to be deterred now, not when the truth was within their grasp. "Let's go," he said firmly, and together they followed Emma toward their next destination, each step carrying them closer to the revelation that would set them free. The trio hurried through Neo-Seattle's labyrinthine underbelly, their footsteps echoing off damp concrete walls as they navigated the shadowy alleys and crumbling infrastructure that had given rise to this city of memories. Emma led the way with an air of urgency, her eyes flicking between the narrow streets and the encrypted message on her device. Julian kept a protective arm around Liz's shoulders, trying to shield her from both the physical dangers of their surroundings and the emotional turmoil swirling within them. "What's the problem?" he asked quietly as they paused at a rusted metal door bearing a faded sign, "Abandoned Warehouse, Number 7. Emma turned to him, her expression grave. "Our contact has been detained by someone who knows too much about our plans." "Isaac," Julian muttered, his grip on Liz tightening. "He's got some heavy hitters working for him," Emma continued, her voice barely above a whisper. "They've got surveillance and muscle all over this sector." A chill ran down Julian's spine as he contemplated the potential consequences of their actions becoming public knowledge in this city where memories were currency and power. But they couldn't afford to hesitate, not when Liz's life hung in the balance. With a deep breath, Emma accessed the door's security system with a few swift keystrokes on her device. The locks disengaged with an audible click, and she pushed the creaky portal open, revealing a dimly lit cavern of old shipping containers and discarded machinery. Julian pulled Liz inside as Emma followed, closing the door behind them to minimize any sound that might carry outside. Their contact, a young man named Marcus, was indeed being held by Isaac's operatives, or so they claimed when Emma confronted them at gunpoint. The scene was tense, with every second ticking away like a countdown until doom. Julian knew they had to act fast. He and Emma exchanged a look, then simultaneously lunged forward. In the ensuing chaos, Julian managed to overpower his captors, while Emma used her knowledge of the warehouse's layout to evade their pursuit. They converged on Marcus's location just as Isaac himself appeared, flanked by his goons. The creator's eyes flashed with malevolence as he faced down Julian and Emma, but there was a flicker of uncertainty in their depths, a sign that they hadn't fully anticipated this turn of events. "You fools," Isaac spat. "You're playing right into my hands." Julian snorted derisively. "We've been under your spell long enough, Isaac. It's time to wake up." Without further preamble, he reached out and yanked the memory pods from Liz's skull, freeing her from their manipulative grip. She gasped as a torrent of forgotten memories flooded back into her consciousness. Emma rushed forward, wrapping her arms around Liz in a fierce embrace. As Isaac's goons closed in, Julian stood tall, the pods clutched tightly in his hand. "Leave us alone," he commanded, his voice ringing with conviction. "Liz has remembered her past, and nothing can change that truth." The operatives hesitated, their confidence wavering as they stared at the defiant trio. In that moment of doubt, Julian seized the opportunity to make a decisive move, one that would forever alter the course of their lives. With a swift motion, he activated the memory pods, releasing a massive data dump directly into the city's mainframe. It was the culmination of everything they had discovered: Isaac's sinister plan, the manipulation of Liz's memories, and the dark secrets buried deep within Neo-Seattle's infrastructure. As the information began spreading like wildfire through the networks, Julian turned to face Emma and Liz, his partners in this struggle for truth. "It's over," he said quietly, a sense of peace settling over him. "We've exposed Isaac's lies." Liz nodded slowly, her eyes still adjusting to the revelation of her authentic past. "I remember everything now," she murmured. "The life we built together wasn't real, but our love was, and it still is." Emma smiled softly, her gaze locked on Julian's. "You were always there for me, in every memory, true or false. Nothing can erase that." In the aftermath of their victory, as Neo-Seattle grappled with the truth behind its carefully curated realities, Julian, Emma, and Liz found solace in each other's presence. They had weathered the storm together, emerging stronger and more resilient than ever before. As they walked hand in hand out of warehouse number 7 into a new future filled with uncertainty, yet also with the promise of possibility, Julian knew that their journey was far from over. But for now, they could bask in the glow of freedom, a precious commodity they had fought so hard to reclaim. The memories they had forged together would remain unshakable, even as the city itself continued evolving into something more authentic and true. And so, with every step forward, Julian Styles, Emma Reed, and Elizabeth Liz Styles embarked on a new path, one where their love and determination could flourish unfettered by the whims of those who would manipulate them. Their story had been written in memories both false and real, but from this point onward they would shape their own destinies, one choice at a time. As Neo-Seattle rose like a phoenix from the ashes of its former self, Julian, Emma, and Liz stood together, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. For in a world where memories were currency, love remained the most precious commodity of all, untouchable, unstoppable, and forever true.